Welcome to Fatter Wallet's Book Summaries. Today, we're diving into something pretty radical from Bill Perkins. It's a whole new way of looking at money and life, a philosophy that's not about making your money grow, but about making your life grow. You know, we all heard that story as kids, right? The ant and the grasshopper. The lesson was always save, save, save for the future. But Bill Perkins comes along and flips the whole thing on its head. He asks this brilliant question: what about the ant? If the ant just slaves away his whole life, when does he ever actually get to enjoy it? And that one simple question, well, it kind of forces you to rethink everything you've been taught about work and money.
And that right there, that leads us straight into what Perkins calls the saver's dilemma. See, our whole culture is set up to train us to be the ant. Work hard, save, be responsible. But here's the thing it never tells us. When is it enough? When do you get to stop and actually use all that stuff you've saved up?
This just puts so many of us on autopilot, right? We're always putting off the fun stuff, the travel, the big adventures, for someday. But what we risk is squandering the one thing we can never get back. And it's not our money, it's our time, our actual lives.
So how do you break out of that trap? Well, Perkins says we need to completely reframe the goal of personal finance. He actually introduces a whole new currency to measure your wealth by. And spoiler alert, it has absolutely nothing to do with dollars and cents.
He calls it life energy. I mean, think about it. It's all the hours you're alive to actually do things. He argues we should stop being so obsessed with dollars and start thinking in terms of this life energy, because it's the only thing that's truly finite. You know, any money you earn, that's just a stand-in for the life energy you had to trade to get it.
So with that in mind, the new goal, the new objective, it isn't about maximizing your net worth. It's about using your net worth to maximize your positive life experiences. Because when you get right down to it, your life is the sum of your experiences, right? Not the number in your bank account.
Okay, so if we all agree experiences are the goal, how should we be thinking about spending money on them? This is where Perkins introduces a concept that I'm telling you will completely change how you look at spending.
He calls it the memory dividend. It's such a great way to put it. You know, a new car starts losing value the second you drive it off the lot. But an experience, it actually gains value over time. It keeps paying you back with memories, stories you can tell, and just, genuine happiness for the rest of your life.
And this really shows you the power of that memory dividend. Look, the initial joy from the experience is awesome, for sure. But then look at how those memories keep paying out, compounding over decades. The total joy you get can end up being so much bigger than the joy you felt in that single moment.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear, isn't it? It's just like investing in the stock market. The earlier you invest in experiences, the more time they have to pay you back with those amazing memory dividends. The last thing you want to do is wait until you're retired to start.
And all of this leads us to the book's most powerful and, most provocative idea. It's really the logical conclusion you come to once you start valuing your life energy more than your money. Okay, so take a look at this number, 6,646. What do you think that represents? It's a number that, well, it should really make you stop and think.
That is the number of hours someone might work completely for free by earning money they die without ever spending. To put that in perspective, that's over 2.5 years of working a 50-hour week. All that time, all that energy spent earning money that never gets converted into an experience. It's just wasted life energy.
So logically, if you want to make sure none of that precious life energy goes to waste, what's the goal? The optimal goal is to aim to have spent all of your money by the time you die. Aim to die with zero.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. That goal immediately raises a huge fear for almost everyone, right? But what if I run out of money before I die? And look, that's a totally valid fear, but Perkins argues we already have the tools to deal with exactly that.
Just think about it for a second. We all know what life insurance is, right? It's a tool to manage the financial risk of dying too soon. Well, there are also financial tools like annuities that are designed to manage the opposite risk, the risk of living too long and outliving your money. They can give you a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of your life.
So instead of just hoarding cash and saving way too much out of fear, the much more rational thing to do is to use the right tools to manage that uncertainty. When you do that, it frees you up to spend more confidently and actually get closer to that die with zero goal.
All right, and that brings us to the other big objection people have. What about the kids? Shouldn't I leave them a big inheritance?
Perkins's take on this is great. He says you should absolutely provide for your kids and support the charities you care about. But, and this is the key, Do it while you're alive. Give that money when it can have the most impact on their lives, like in their 20s or 30s, now when they're 60 and probably don't need it as much.
When you really boil it down, die with zero is a challenge. It's a call to action to stop living on autopilot and to start being really deliberate about how we use our two most valuable assets, our money, and even more importantly, our time. It kind of leaves you with one big question, doesn't it? What meaningful experiences are you putting off for later? Fatter wallets.